President Trump calling out communism during his address to the nation last night. His comments come amid a surge of socialist candidates' wins across the country. Here is more from the president.
Communism is a loser, and it always will be. The communist system is the opposite of the American system, and the communist system has never worked. Our warriors did not fight communism on battlefields across the world, only to have that menace rear its ugly head right back here in America. We're not going to let it happen.
Joining me now, Christina Pascucci, former California Democratic Senate candidate and political media strategist. Easy for me to say. Aaron McGuire, former Trump 2020 Director of Press Communications and a Republican strategist. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Happy Independence Day weekend.
We made it.
So,
the 4th.
What do you make of President Trump going after the far left in that way, Aaron?
Well, it was a stark contrast to the entire message of that speech was American exceptionalism and 250. And the president really beautifully used the American flag throughout instances in that speech to paint the picture of freedom and tell the cause that we have fought for of liberty throughout generations. You bring in the veterans with that, and you contrast that message with the communism and the socialism that is directly on the rise in the Democrat Party. While not calling out the midterms specifically, it's a good messaging shaping for Republicans going forward, because while communism and socialism is antithetical to our nation, I don't think it's hitting as strong as it had in previous cycle to voters the same way, because look at Zohran Mamdani. Yes, he is a socialist, but New York City is not completely on fire at this point.
As a Democrat, do you worry about the party shifting too far to the left, Christina?
I think that's certainly a huge concern right now. But what we're seeing more and more is that Mamdani is not an exception. Democratic socialism is growing, and it appears that it's here to stay. So I think the big question that people on both sides of the aisle need to ask themselves is, why is this having more than a moment? Why is this appearing to grow? I was in New York City, and I was riding in a cab, and I asked him, what do you think of Mamdani? And he loved him. He speaks to him, was the way that he described it to me. So I think that if moderate Democrats and Republicans want to have their message resonate with people, they need to start listening more to the concerns that people have and lending them a voice and making them feel seen and heard. I think that'll go a far way.
All right. You both mentioned the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Let's play a clip from him, and I'll get you guys to break it down.
As we mark 250 years, what do we see? We see a city of contradictions within a nation of contradictions. We see the wealthiest country in the history of the world, one where children go to sleep hungry while the world's first trillionaire hungers for more. We see monopolies that dominate every industry and oligarchs who buy elections. We see masked agents terrorizing our streets, eating food cooked by our undocumented neighbors before spiriting them away in unmarked vans.
While the United States is certainly not perfect, and we've certainly had our difficult chapters, is that a little dark, Aaron?
It's extremely dark. We are the greatest and freest nation the world has ever known, the largest driver of peace, and the most welcoming to immigrant communities that truly has ever happened across the globe. Zohran Mamdani is reflective of that. He's an immigrant to this nation. He was not born a U.S. citizen. And what an opportunity he gets to have because of the freedoms that were fought and protected for by those ahead of him. Socialism sounds great until you run out of everybody else's money. And while he is sitting there talking about the haves and the have-nots, socialism and communism only increases that. Republicans can talk about how scary that is, but also need to offer the contradictory solution to that. We believe in individual freedom and liberty. Government does not solve the problems. It generally creates them in the long run.
I covered the Barack Obama White House, and I remember his speeches being obviously very different than President Trump's, but being very uplifting. Did Mamdani miss an opportunity to be uplifting in his vision?
That's an understatement, Mike. Look, I'm the daughter of an immigrant. I love this country with all of my heart. It is a miracle. If you think of everything that led up to July 4th, 1776, it is a miracle that we are all standing here in the greatest experiment that the world perhaps has ever known when it comes to democracy and representing the voice of the people. And for July 4th, we should celebrate that. We should put politics aside. And President Trump had an opportunity to in his speech. And if you're on the left, you're going to criticize the speech. If you're on the right, you might celebrate it. But a lot of moderates felt that Yes, the Artemis crew being on stage was great. Yes, celebrating veterans was amazing. There was a lot of awe-inspiring moments. But then when he talked about communism, or conversely with what Mamdani did, the ideological counterpoint really on Friday, they lost a moment to celebrate Americans and focus on making us feel proud rather than vilifying those who disagree with us. And I think we need more focus on that and less focus on vilifying those we disagree with.
Do you think Mamdani will course correct, Aaron?
Oh, no, I don't. I think Democrats can't hide the crazy anymore. It is in full plain sight every day. Mamdani is just getting started at this point. The reason socialism doesn't seem scary to voters is they haven't seen the repercussions for that. Yes, isn't everything fun when it's free until your paycheck has almost nothing left in for it, for you to be able to save or make your own decisions on how to spend? It takes a while for those realities to hit. And I consider him and every other Democrat in New York, look out Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. There's a new king of the party in New York, and it is Zohran Mamdani. You better believe he's going to be dragging them, New York Democrats, and the country writ large much further to the left and towards communism and socialism.
Well, that's why I think it's really important right now for President Trump to show the difference of what he represents and take this opportunity to unite the country and not vilify, because people are kind of tired of that. They're tired of politics as usual. And President Trump, you know, he'll say what's on his mind. And for a long time, a lot of people have appreciated that about him. But what would have really surprised the crowd last night is if he came out and didn't attack the other side and instead just celebrated what makes America so great.
Christina, Aaron, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.